About Sword Art Online. Sword Art is the most relevant and irrelevant anime I've seen. It hasn't really been talked about that much in years, but I think pretty much every year they make something new for the franchise. It wasn't the very first isekai to exist in animes. Apparently the first manga was Jobless Reincarnation. I don't know how much of that is true, but I won't fact check it because I don't really care that much. I would say Sword Art Online is definitely the anime that made the genre popular though. It found massive success and became really popular when it first came out. No one really gives a fuck about Sword Art Online anymore though, but at the start it did look like a pretty interesting anime for the people who don't know the initial premise of the story, because now the anime has gone way off from where it started as. They came out with new seasons and movies and all that other shit in New Worlds. Basically we follow the story of our protagonist Kirito. We go straight to Kirito being in his room preparing to get into the SAO world. He was picked to be in a group of around 10,000 people to be part of a beta test for the first run of the game. So Kirito lays down and puts his VR headset on and gets launched into the game. From there we go into your typical isekai stylized world, starting in a beginner town with guilds and quests and all that other stuff. Just any RPG you would play in real life. Kirito links up with a red-headed guy and they go around killing some boars for EXP. After kicking each other in the deck a couple of times, they end up being buddies. By the end of the day, they try to log out but realize that there is no log out option. After some more nut smacking, they start taking it seriously because no announcement or anything had been made about it. Soon they get teleported to some Coliseum dome thing, along with all the other players of the game. The sky turns red like it's the eclipse and a moderator shows up above them, and he comes down real quick to basically tell them that they're fucked. They can't leave the game forever, and if they do try to force their headset off, they'll die. On top of that, if the person dies in the game, they'll also die in real life. There's only one option the Discord moderator gives the players. They have to climb up all the way from floor 1 all the way to floor 100 and clear the final boss. He gives them a mirror and they get turned into their real life bodies. So the cat ladies and Chaz end up reverting to their real identities. His reasoning for this was pretty simple. He wanted to play God by being the only one with admin permissions in his game. After that they get transported out and they start their journey from there. Kirito and the red-headed guy he met at the start decided to split up, but before he left he said some pretty sus shit, and then after that we never see him again. Well, not until like the next game they go into, and that pretty much sums up the first episode. SAO, for as bad as the anime is, you gotta admit that it has one of the best first episodes that anime could have. There's really not that many other shows I can think of that had a better first episode, but it ended up being a huge bait, and the story devolved into something else entirely. They basically skipped the entire journey of Sword Art Online, and that was definitely the main appeal of it. Up to Kirito basically being almost done with the game, he became hella overpowered, and burst off the part that hooked so many people in. They made Kirito too perfect as a main character. That nigga basically speedran the game. Then after that, it devolved more and more with them going into more isekai worlds, which really made no fucking sense after what they went through. 2 episodes later and this nigga's back on the grind into another world. This nigga did not go to therapy or counseling or anything like that. It makes sense that you would want to go back into those types of games eventually, but not in the same week, my nigga. They made him have no flaws that ironically ended up being the flaw of his character. He has no mental or physical struggles cause he's fucking Kirito. He's just there. It was a great idea that was executed terribly. I like to think of Tower of God as a Sword Art Online that was done right. In Tower of God is basically the same premise. People who are chosen to climb the tower start at the bottom floor obviously. In that bottom floor though, they go through a screening period by a ranker. Rankers are people who already cleared the tower, by the way. They're basically crazy strong immortals after reaching the top. If you fail the screening period, you get kicked out the tower if you manage to survive. And if you pass, you move on to the first real floor of the tower, which is where you start climbing. Each floor has an administrator, which is basically a deity that makes laws for each floor. You can keep climbing the tower to become a ranker, or just settle on whichever floor you're on and live your life there. Then there's all the lore with the king and people who originally climbed the tower, and they don't even know the limit of the tower. There's one floor above them that the king didn't conquer yet. The world building in that story is one of the best you'll find in any manga, anime, or manhwa. It takes the concept of climbing a tower and fills it up with lots of lore and history for characters, where SAO just skimmed through the whole thing. I only watched SAO up until like Gun Gale Online, so like season 3, but they passed that a long time ago. The last thing I remember is Alicization when it first came out, but that was like 2 or 3 years ago. SAO is far from saving. The story fell off a long time ago. It's just something I thought about randomly, so I wanted to talk about it. That sums up what I have to say about SAO though. If you enjoyed, watch my last video about manga authors that fell off. That's all I have to say though. Peace.